So thank you again for joining us. My name is Missy Frazin. I work at UIC Career Services as an Assistant Director for Career Development. And then I'll let the other hostesses introduce themselves as well.
My name is, go ahead.
Hi everyone, I'm Lauren Gallagher. I'm the Assistant Director of Career Development, and I also manage the internship program in LAS.
My name is Liz Herrera, and I'm the Director of Career Development at Major Exploration at the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences.
So if you are a student or an alum, just make sure you mute yourself just so we don't get a ton of background noise. That would be wonderful. So like I said, mentioned before, I work in UIC Career Services. So we work with students and alums of UIC from all the different colleges and majors, from freshmen to seniors to alums. If you need any assistance, like a career advising appointment, we're providing all of that virtually. So you can call our office, and I'll drop the number into the chat a little bit later. But we're here to assist you with any of your needs. And then Lauren and Liz, you want to talk a little bit about your office as well, and then we'll kind of keep on trucking.
Yeah, so we work with liberal arts and sciences students. So we do major exploration, career exploration, and then I'll let Lauren talk a little bit about the internship program.
Awesome. So students can also make an appointment with me to talk about their different interests. We can help to get you connected to employers. We also put on lots of events and workshops throughout the semester. We have a lot of online resources so that we can help you to find some of that relevant experience. We also teach a class. So if you are in an internship over the summer, we offer the LAS 289 elective class. So you can enroll this summer. It will be an online class, but we also offer it for fall and spring.
Okay, great. So as we're getting started, we also just want to acknowledge that this is a really intense time, I think, for a lot of us, especially the last couple months, especially this past week and what's going on. So we're hoping that, students and alums, our panelists, we're hoping that, you're keeping yourself as safe as you can and your family as well. And just that, it's a difficult time. We hope you're doing okay. We know that sometimes it's hard to focus when there's just a lot of different things going on. We hope you can plug in with us for, about a little over an hour. We're really glad that you're here. If there's anything we can do to be helpful or you need to talk about anything, please feel free to reach out to Liz, Lauren, or myself. But we do want to acknowledge that because there is a lot going on and I don't think any of it is easy.
Thank you for that, Missy, and everyone for being here today. And we're just taking it one day at a time. And we're here and we're a support network for everyone and for our colleagues as well, of course. Well, we wanted to just kind of begin and say that please be patient with us with this technology. And I know we're talking to a bunch of IT people here, techie people. Be patient with us. We are, like Missy said, we did this program last week and we had some hiccups, but it's a learning experience for all of us, even for us, working professionals. But I will say that this is going to be a skill that employers will highly value, and that's something that we're all learning, and it's something that you'll be able to add on to your resume and talk about it in a future job interview. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and so go ahead, Missy.
Oh yeah, the other thing that we always just like to say when we're bringing in professionals is that, there's not always that many opportunities to connect with professionals. And even though this is virtual, we think this is a great opportunity to ask some questions a little bit later on in the event. We have a recruiter, we have some other professionals who work, in IT or things related to technology. So feel free to kind of pick their brains, try to learn from them. After the event, we will send a quick email to all the students and alums to participate in this event, and we'll provide contact information for the panelists. So you potentially could follow up with them if you want to talk more or have some additional questions. So try to take advantage of the opportunity to connect with professionals because there's not that many opportunities that come along. And the three of them are just so gracious and so willing to be helpful to students and alums, and they've let us know that a whole bunch of times. So we're really happy that they're here and just try to take advantage of this opportunity to connect with them, ask them questions, all that good stuff.
All right, so we're going to give you a little bit of the lay of the land. We're going to have an opportunity for the panelists to introduce themselves, give a little background. We have some questions prepared for them. That'll be about 35 minutes. And then we're going to go into breakout rooms So that way everybody has an opportunity to ask questions to the panelists. We send you some questions ahead of time. Hopefully you can delve into those questions. Don't feel intimidated. We all know these great panelists and they're wonderful and they're here to help. So take advantage and ask questions. So we're gonna do our very best to conclude our program at around 3:15. We wanna be respectful and mindful of everyone's time. So we're gonna go ahead and get ready for the stars of our show. And we're gonna give each panelist about 3 to 5 minutes. If you can introduce yourself, tell us your name, your current position, and then a little bit about your career background. Let's start with Jade, since she's the first one in my radar, and then we'll go with Sammy and then Caesar.
Hi guys, I'm Jade Lopez. Thank you so much for asking me to come be a part of this, and thank you all for taking the time to listen to me speak when there's so many other more important things that are happening. I actually recognize some of you from my time at UIC, like, hi Noah. So my background, what am I not? Well, I'll start with what I'm doing now. So I'm an applied data scientist at a data science consulting firm called Civis Analytics. We're in downtown Chicago, and the work that we're doing is we're working with the governor's office to coordinate the COVID response right now. And so I got into this work because I actually went to UIC for my graduate degree. I got a master's in public health in biostatistics. Before that, I was working in international development. And before that, I was working in health communications in the sexual and reproductive health sector. And have come from like a clinical health background. When I graduated, I wasn't super interested in working in like drug trials. So I went more into the applied data science and just like data science in general route, because I had a lot of student loans and I needed to pay that off. I think that would have been better. And it was also like more interesting for me on the types of problems that I would encounter. And I've learned a lot in my position now. I graduated this time last year, and I'm happy to answer any questions about data science or public health to the extent that I can. So thank you.
All right, I will go. Yeah, just like Jade said, thank you all so much for jumping on this today with everything that's going on. I really appreciate it, and I'm honored to be on the panel, but I also just appreciate your time in general. So as you know, my name is Sammy, and I am a professional recruiter with a company called Brooksource. I've been with Brooksource for 4 years, and I graduated from the University of Dayton in Southern Ohio. Started with Brooksource as a recruiter, and then a couple years ago, I got promoted to manage our associate level hiring program. And for those of you that don't know, Brooksource is an IT staffing organization. So most of my time is focused on providing IT opportunities to those who have 0 to 3 years of experience, but we also have a couple divisions that are non-IT. One is calculated hire for more business students or folks that are not in IT, and then we have a healthcare division as well. So I will probably get into this a little bit later, but definitely disclaimer, not hands-on technical whatsoever, but Brooksource did a really great job of providing us the tools to be successful and successfully recruit for IT students. So I am in the space quite a bit when it comes to different clients that we work with, all Fortune 500 organizations, and lots of different candidates and types of students. So I'm excited.
Thanks, Sammy. I guess I'll go next, right? My name is Cesar Novello, and again, thanks everyone for making the time to attend. Like Liz said, it's a difficult time, so I appreciate everyone's interest in attending. I have 15 years of experience in corporate. Currently, I'm an IT risk management and compliance lead consultant at Allstate. I would say half of my career has been in the insurance industry. The other half has been in banking. I graduated from UIC many years ago with a Bachelor of Science in Economics. I continued my education and got my MBA. I got my Master's in Information System Management. And I'm currently working on my Master's in Cybersecurity at DePaul. So that should be interesting. And happy to answer any questions you guys have.
Oh boy, I was on mute, sorry. Thank you all for just sharing a little bit about your backgrounds and kind of what brought you to the work you're doing today. One question that we have is sort of how did you kind of jumpstart your career in technology? And for Sammy, obviously you said you don't work yourself exactly in technology, so feel free, to answer whatever you think is best, but we have a lot of students and alums who are joining us who might want to hear about how you decided to kind of jumpstart your career in technology. And maybe we'll just go in the same order just to keep it simple. So we had Jade, and then we had Sammy, and then we had Caesar.
Yeah, so jumpstarting a career in technology, I think, I got my bachelor's in 2011. I was a pre-med student, so I was always interested in science and technology, but didn't really find a place for myself. Like, I didn't think of myself as like a technical worker. So it wasn't until I found like an area that I was passionate about, which was sexual and reproductive health. And that's when I started to realize like, oh, I have an affinity for like programming and technologies in a way that the people that I'm working with don't necessarily like either aren't interested in like looking at software or they just haven't thought about it. And so when I was in grad school, you guys are gonna laugh, but like in public health, we use SAS programming, which is like, it's not really a language, but that was really exciting for me. And I met people I'm from San Francisco in the Bay Area, so when I moved to Chicago, I just like met a bunch of folks and people were working in data science, and I was really excited about it, and got to take like computing classes and analytics classes, like health analytics classes on campus. So I learned about Python and just kind of learned about all these different things that I'm sure all of you learn about, like, and know about. And once I graduated, I was doing exploratory on my own. So I was working on like hackathons and challenges and just trying, going to Shy Hack Night, which they still have it online, so you can still do that. And I actually worked at Northwestern as a data science TA. So they had like a data science certification course. And since I had the background, I couldn't be an instructor because I didn't have professional experience, but I had teaching experience both from my grad school and from previous experience. So yeah, and then I was just applying to data science jobs. And so that's brute force, I would say, is how I got into the field.
That was great, super helpful.
Yeah, that was great. And I would say like also it's about who you know too, and that's kind of the common theme for my career, for me and for the students that I work with. So as you know, I'm not hands-on technical, but I knew after my MIS class at Dayton 4 years ago, my professor made it a huge point for us to at least entertain a career that's related to technology. So at the career fair, my senior year, I did my best to map out my route so that I was only going to companies that would entertain that technology piece. So when I went to the Brooksource booth at the career fair, I actually ran into two girls that I actually already knew. So it was a really easy conversation. And again, it's all about who you know. And I told them that my goal was to move to Chicago. Another part of job searching is having those logistics ironed out before you start job searching. So they hooked me up with the office here in Chicago because I'm from Cleveland, and that's how that all worked. But I guess I would say, just for anyone that is looking for a job right now, utilize your network as much as you can and always continuously learn. I think for me, it was the professor and those girls at the career fair, and then just like keeping up with the industry on my own. that got me to where I am now. And that's what I always tell my students too.
Great, Sammy. Thanks so much.
Thanks. So my career started, I graduated from UIC, like I said, with a bachelor's in economics. I started in the banking industry, and I was the user of an application, and I was approached by a manager at the time that we needed somebody to test new functionalities of that application. So it was additional work that I was asked to do, and I did it. And that's when I discovered that I did have some affinity with IT. And that happened 14, 15 years ago. So that was the beginning of it. Yeah.
Great, thank you. One of the things that I hear from all of you is definitely maximizing your network, so leveraging your connections, but also having that action plan. So Sammy, you talk about going to the career fair, like you have some goals in mind, you articulate that, so people are able to support you and help you out when you have that action, that goal in mind, but also continuous. All of you mentioned being able to continue your training and your education. So especially in this field, right? It's online, consistent learning, constant learning. Okay, so now the next question, what is, if you can describe your typical day, typical week, what does it look like to be in your respective roles?
Typical, right? What's that? So even I think before the massive like police brutality and stuff that we're experiencing like up hand and up close this past like week and weekend, COVID shifted a lot of things. So moving from an in-office experience to completely virtual, that's been a shift. I do work in an office. They call it a distributed office. So we're headquartered in Chicago, but we have offices in DC, Houston, LA, New York. And so I'm used to like working with people online and having video conferences. But I would say because I work at a data science consulting company, so I'm working with clients on a pretty short time frame. It's a contract, and coming from academia where I'm a statistician by training, so we were interested in finding the causes of everything and having like the most perfect way to do it, and me being able to explain every single thing from start to finish. That is not the case in the professional world. Like I need to be able to trust my coworkers, both from like an office culture perspective and because like who wants to work with a person that insists to micromanage everything, right? So a typical day for me now is also different because we are working on the COVID response. We have a stand-up meeting for an hour where we're all talking and going through the tasks that we need to do for the day. We break off, work on the things that we need to work on. I do have a lot of hands-on keyboard time because I'm not like a senior data scientist who's like controlling the project specifically. I'm more of like a support role. And we meet with external stakeholders, like whether it's the Illinois Department of Public Health or the modelers that are doing the epidemiological modeling or the governor's office themselves. So typical is, I wouldn't say that this is typical, but the working at a consulting firm with the fast pace and having working with distributed teams, I think that's pretty typical of like the workplace that I'm at.
Yeah, so I guess if any of you are interested in what the other side of the table looks like when it comes to working with a recruiter, if you're not familiar with staffing, what that is we are working on a needs basis for our clients, and our clients are Fortune 500 companies looking to fill positions. So a typical week for me is honestly an emotional roller coaster. So my job is a little different than normal recruiters because I do manage our program. So I spend half of my time working with universities and students. I actually recognize a couple of your names on here, I think from like career fairs or being on campus, but ideally, I get to know students or anyone with 0 to 3 years of experience early on in your academic career so that you and I are under the same impression of what you're looking for, so that once you are ready for that full-time opportunity, I have a really good understanding of not only the type of work you're looking for, but also the environment or the type of company or the location, whatever might be really important to you as a candidate. And then the other half of my job is spent with our clients. So for me, not all of our Fortune 500 organizations are always immediately looking for associate level candidates. So my job is to help them understand how and why they could bring in an entry level candidate and how that benefits their environment, whether it's retention planning or growing at a fast pace, and we provide the training to do that. So in a typical week, I spend a lot of time on campus interviewing, in meetings with clients, preparing candidates for interviews with our clients. So we give you all the resources that you need to be successful. And then managing the program once you get started with us. So if you do start with us, you have training and a curriculum at the client. So on a weekly basis, I touch base with all of our consultants to check in on how they're doing, and we get feedback from our clients as well. So sometimes the managers don't always want to have those hard conversations with our consultants, so I have to deliver that feedback and then also get feedback from them on how they feel like the company is doing and how Brooksource is doing. So lots of talking, lots of online meetings like this nowadays, and just constantly learning more about the industry. I myself use a lot of Google searches and LinkedIn to keep myself updated because our clients and IT are changing so fast that it's really important for me to stay up to date with all of that so that you all feel educated, you all feel like you have the resources coming from Brooksource, and so that our clients know that we care and we do the due diligence to support them. So that's it.
No, Sammy, that was super helpful. And I feel like both Sammy and Jade talked a little bit about that sort of teamwork piece and working with other people. And I love sort of the other side of the desk, as Sammy talked about, as from a recruiter standpoint. So that's great. And then Caesar, we'd love to hear from you as well, kind of like a typical day, a typical week.
Sure. I really don't have a typical day, to be honest, because everything is changing in technology. So, and I'm in risk management. So what we normally do is we have a lot of meetings, a lot of conversations with different stakeholders within the company, different units. Whenever they want to introduce a new application, a new system into the environment, we want to make sure that it's done in a safe way, that it doesn't introduce any new vulnerabilities into the system. We have locations all over the world, so I have peers in every continent, I would say, and we communicate virtually. So the transition from being partially working from home to now completely working from home wasn't that much of a difference. I do miss seeing my coworkers in the office, but kind of getting used to that.
Wonderful. So again, thank you. And it's so interesting because I think sometimes people think, oh, if you work in IT or you work in technology or coding, you sort of do it all on your own. And I think all three of our panelists have talked about the sort of collaborative piece, the communication piece is so important. So thank you all for sharing that. And Sammy talked about this a little bit, but we want to hear from the panelists, how do you keep yourself current? Because technology, is changing so quickly. So we're wondering what type of education is required for your industry. Do you think it's a degree that matters? Do you think certificates are important? We know this is sort of a big question, but we'd love to hear just a little bit about kind of how you keep your skills current and how you stay on top of things. And then I think we'll try to do the same order, if that's okay, just to keep things simple.
Yeah, I think Caesar will be able to speak more about this because he's been in the the longest. But I can share what I've done. I think when I was first starting out in this field, there are many different areas that a data scientist can be. Someone can trend more towards data engineering. Someone can trend more towards data visualization. They're just different tracks that you can be in that I honestly didn't really know much about because I didn't really know what this field was. So I'm really lucky in that in my company, they have like a structure, like you'll get like a mentor. And I think other tech companies do this as well. Because they're trying to build, they're trying to snap people up right from graduation. So they're trying to like mirror what you get like in an undergraduate education, and like a clear advisor and clear reporting structures and this and that if you're at a good company. So there's also a big culture at my company, and this is why I chose where I worked, right? I've made sure to ask these questions in my job interviews. There's a big culture where I work of people do these things called lightning talks, where they get to pick like a topic that they want to talk about and just yammer about and have people listen to them for 5 minutes. There's also like journal club, where people will look and find academic journals that they find interesting and we'll talk about. There's many book clubs. There's just as many social and training academic opportunities. Like other departments will have office hours. So like the front end DevOps, they'll have office hours. So if I'm having problems with like CSS, I can just be like, please help me. I don't know what this is going on. And so I find that helpful. And then my advisor was really adamant that the job that I take out of grad school, I kept learning. And so I asked this question in the interviews, like, how do you keep up on your skills? Like, what do you do? Because there's trying to find a job is different from like trying to like be good and be a leader in your field. And so once I have the job and I know where I want to be, right? Like I'm surrounded by people that I know that I want to be like, because I'm going to spend the majority of my day with them. And so we'll start to think and talk like them. So do people do they still go to networking events? Like, was I supported? Like I really like POC who code. I really like Shy Hack Night. Like, am I still encouraged to go to those things? And then there's the separation of like the technical piece. Like, oh, I really want to get better at like, I don't know, like neural nets, right? Or like, I really want to get better at this type of machine learning versus what's this like area that I think data and technology can leverage. And, as we're seeing now, especially like a lot of governments need help. And, I work on the public sector team. So like, yeah, it's really exciting for me to think of like some Python script that I can make, but like the food stamps office, like they just need a way to be able to scan application, like, and is it like, do I want to be the type of person that's always doing like the new best cool technical thing? Or do I want to like work in like an area that I can have the most impact and change? Because both of those are like important for me to feel fulfilled at my job, to even get a job, because technology is only as good as the people that are using it. So if I'm writing something fancy and no one knows what it is, like, I don't know, did the script run? So yeah, hope that's helpful.
Yeah, I really like that you mentioned, Jade, what you asked in your interview, because I, like myself, I do use Brooksource's training that they offer us. It's a software that they created in-house. It's called Litmos, and it has like the most up-to-date technology courses for us as recruiters to take, just so we can stay up to date. But I also, in my personal time, just recently enrolled in a Udemy class or course, just so that I can get some hands-on technical skills. But the reason I did that is because I've been for 4 years teaching or telling students what to do and how to be better in interviews and how to make your resume stand out. And that's it, really what you do in your personal time or during the summer if you didn't end up getting that internship, or if COVID affected your internship, you can spend your time getting a certification or getting a certificate from Udemy or Pluralsight or even LinkedIn Learning I've heard a lot about recently. There's so many online courses and online resources that I'm sure Caesar has a lot to talk about, like you said, Jade. But yeah, I would say just like spending like the personal projects in interviews for me, since I am the interviewer, are so much more impressive sometimes than even the some of the class projects or some, you know, projects that you might have thought were, oh, this is just necessary, but you weren't actually passionate about them. And then if you do a project in your personal time and you utilize some of these sites like Udemy and Pluralsight, that goes so much longer of a way, because it's like what Jade said, do you want to make something that is, you know, just standard or something that you're told, or do you want to make an impact? And if you show how passionate you are and that you actually do spend your time doing this, it goes a long way in interviews. So short answer is Udemy and Pluralsight for me.
Yeah, and I would have to agree. Experience is definitely is what's going to give you the edge, hands-on experience. I try to get a certification every year, at least a professional certification. There are some roles that is strongly preferred if you have the certification, such as when you're in internal audit, is preferred if you have certifications for that, which at the time I did. Some areas in information security also ask you to have certifications on that. But definitely, whenever I have the opportunity to learn something new internally within the new company, I'm going to go ahead and do it, because that's the best experience and what I would recommend. Degrees, yeah, they matter, certifications matter, but experience is probably the best way to go about it.
All right, great, thank you. Let me just tell the panelists, you all have a lot of questions that students are getting ready to, to ask. So I will let the audience know that in a few minutes, we will be going to breakout sessions. And then you'll be able to ask some of the specific questions to each panelist. We do have one more question though for each of you. And I think some of you have already addressed pieces of this. So this is kind of a loaded question, so bear with us. What are some of the trends that you've identified in the last few months? And maybe speak about how your role has shifted, which I know some of you touched a little bit on that. And any projections that you have for your industry. And then any advice on how students can network and gain experience during this pandemic. So the best that you can answer that. I know it's a lot of information in one question.
Okay, I want to make sure that I got this right. So like trends, and then the best way for someone to network and get a job.
Yes, so
okay.
Trends, projections, and networking. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Trends, a lot of the stuff that we're seeing is that public sector agencies especially really need help to bring in someone that understands what technology is. Like, it's completely okay for a CEO to stand up and say, oh, I don't understand technology, that's why I have a CTO. But it's not okay for them to say the same thing about finances, right? Even though they have a CFO. So that shift is changing, and that shift is happening. And I think a lot of it gets pushed by social media and marketing, but there's other ways that technology and like data analysis can help drive decision making, especially in the public sector. So that, I think that's a trend to look into. That's big though, and that's kind of vague. So check that out, and happy to talk about that more in the breakout. The best way for people to get jobs, well, like a really easy shortcut, like there's job postings at my company right now. So you can definitely look those up. I also really recommend to people to engage in those networking events, because a lot of professionals go and they're interested either in finding other folks that could be for their networks or for their jobs, or they want to talk to someone new that's exciting, and you guys are all like new and exciting. I found the best way for me to find a job was to continue to work like in the field. So continuing to participate in hackathons, having like all of the resources, right? Like having a job alert on LinkedIn, continuing to talk to people about informational interviews, like asking for, can you check out this resume for me? Something that I don't know like a lot about, but I have a little bit of experience in, is working like with an agency, especially for someone that is Black and brown now. People are like tripping over themselves to hire folks. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's always going to be a safe place for you to work, but people are going to be tripping over themselves to be hiring Black and brown folks that work in technology. So not in this way of like, oh, leverage that and like sell yourself out, but just like realize that like you are in a better position than you think, than like maybe it seems like. And a lot of the places that I recommend to look would be places that are already established for remote work. So like Zoom, Google, obviously, Asana, like these companies that maybe you haven't heard of because you've been involved in school, like start doing Google searches for like remote work jobs. Like look at companies that have like already worked remote before. Like there are companies that were exclusively remote work. So they're very well prepared for how to handle like HR challenges and just being able to like show up for you as a human being, which is paramount in these times. Yeah, I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, so the first question was like trends. So I guess the trend from a recruiter's seat is, since the pandemic started, the candidates that have stuck out to me and that have gotten jobs with me are the ones that have taken this in a positive way, or not taken it in a positive way, but at least stayed positive during the interview process and to my clients. Because that shows us, it's kind of like the cliche question, what is your weakness? We don't actually want to know what your weakness is when we're asking that. Sure, it's interesting to me, but especially we want to know how you are able to talk about maybe something that is negative and how you're able to turn that to a positive, or turn it to how you're working on yourself. And that's what this pandemic really has been, just like one big, what is your weakness question. So that's a positive, I guess. So stay positive throughout your interviews. And then how to find jobs. So completely agree with what Jade said. Networking, as I mentioned at the beginning, is so important. So I've actually been to Shy Hack Night. It's amazing. And then there's so many other around the city, but builtinchicago.com is a great resource. UIC has great resources too. Themuse.com recently has been posting companies that are hiring during the pandemic. I haven't checked in the past couple of weeks, so I don't know if they're still doing that, but it's a good website just in general. I know they post jobs there too. And then for me as a recruiter, I actually utilize my network. So if you met a recruiter in the fall or last year and you're graduating now, try to go back and find their contact information, because if you reach back out to me, I might have a position available that I just maybe forgot about you, or you didn't come to mind right away. So if you reach out to me and utilize your network, it'll go a long way. And then LinkedIn. So I post, if I don't find someone through my network first, I post my jobs on LinkedIn, and I know it's a great place for entry-level positions.
That was a good question, Liz. So some of the trends that I have identified lately is for sure the increased need of cybersecurity professionals, since everything is being done online remotely these days. So you need to secure that. So that's definitely an area that's is going to be in demand a lot. I think also data privacy, for the same reasons. A lot of people don't know how to handle the data that's going from one place to the other, and there's protocols that you have to follow for all that. Any projections for the industries? It's in IT is pretty much, if you continue evolving and learning every day, you're set. You don't have much to worry about it. It's secure to the extent that any job can be secured. As far as gaining experience and networking, getting a job, I would agree. I mean, go to LinkedIn, attend seminars, webinars, connect with people. You will find people that will go out of their way to help you achieve your goals. UIC has good resources as well, so definitely do that.
Right.
So, oh no, Liz, go ahead.
Thank you, Caesar, and thank you all of you for answering that thoroughly.